You used to be the good guy back in your college days when everything felt possible and right. You volunteered at homeless shelters
Here you go.
and truly cared about helping people in need every single week.
This means a lot.
You organized big protests demanding clean water access for everyone in your local community. You believed the entire system was broken and that you could be the one to actually fix it.
You were determined and passionate about creating real positive change in the world around you. You decided to run for city council at 26 with big dreams of making a difference.
Your simple platform focused on transparency and truly serving the people who voted.
Against all odds, you won the election by a very narrow margin of only 12 votes.
You bravely exposed serious corruption happening inside the Public Works Department early on.
You successfully pushed through important affordable housing initiatives for your local community.
Local newspapers praised you and called you a real breath of fresh air in politics. For the first time in your life, you truly felt like a hero making the world better. Then you took the next big step and ran for Congress with much higher stakes.
A wealthy businessman walked into your office and offered $50,000 to help. Here's $50,000 to help your campaign.
Oh my!
When you asked what he wanted in return, he simply said nothing, just keep being you.
You won the congressional election and headed to Washington full of hope and determination. You arrived in Washington believing you would change everything for the better.
Just 3 months later, the businessman called about an upcoming important vote. Hello, about the upcoming vote.
The small tax provision seemed complicated, but it would help many companies and jobs.
After thinking carefully about the economic benefits, you decided to vote yes on it. 6 months later, another difficult call came about loosening environmental regulations on factories. This is going to be tough.
The businessman explained how strict rules were forcing American factories to move overseas.
You remembered your college days fighting for the environment, but now felt torn inside.
After careful thought about jobs and the economy, you voted yes to loosen the restrictions.
Your old environmental supporters became furious and felt completely betrayed by your decision.
Meanwhile, business groups started praising you as pragmatic and realistic in your approach.
The businessman invited you to an expensive steakhouse dinner with his powerful friends.
They all complained about too many regulations and how they just wanted to do business freely.
You began taking their calls and making helpful introductions to navigate government bureaucracy.
You told yourself this was just helping your constituents and nothing illegal was happening.
Over time, these dinners with business leaders became more frequent and more comfortable for you.
You started assisting with contracts and regulations that needed faster government attention.
Wow, all approved. Great work.
Excellent.
4 years later, you decided to run for Senate with much bigger goals and higher ambitions.
The businessman and his network donated the legal maximum amounts to support your campaign. Even their wives, children, employees, and company PACs contributed large sums to your campaign. Suddenly, your campaign had over $3 million, which gave you a massive financial advantage.
With all that funding, you ran a strong campaign and connected with many more voters.
You won the Senate seat in a comfortable landslide victory thanks to all the support. The Senate felt very different, with more power, bigger players, and greater opportunities.
You quickly built powerful connections and started gaining important leadership positions.
The businessman continued calling with new requests as your influence in Washington grew stronger.
You began helping navigate bigger contracts and regulations that benefited your new allies.
Your power and access in the Senate increased dramatically over the following years.
You received invitations to exclusive events and felt like you had truly arrived in politics.
But late at night, you sometimes wondered how far you had drifted from your original ideals.
One day, a mysterious man known as the Fixer entered your Senate office without any appointment at all.
He introduced himself saying he solved serious problems for important people like you in politics.
You asked him exactly what kind of problems he could make disappear for someone in your position. The Fixer explained he could make threats that ruin careers disappear without a trace.
He mentioned your strong young opponent who was quickly rising in the latest election polls.
The fixer proposed a story about your opponent having a secret gambling problem with big debts. Gambling problem?
You told the fixer to leave immediately because you were not interested in his dangerous ideas.
Weeks later, your advisors panicked as the polls showed you might actually lose the election.
After thinking hard about everything, you decided to call the fixer.
2 days later, fake photos surfaced showing your opponent acting reckless at a casino late at night.
Your opponent denied everything, but the damaging photos had already hurt his campaign badly. Thanks to the scandal, you won re-election comfortably by a solid margin of 12 points.
The very next day, the fixer called, reminding you that you now owed him a serious favor.
Oh no, what have I done?
Over the next years, you start making difficult phone calls that helped bury certain investigations quietly.
You reached out to judges and lawyers to ensure some problematic cases never reached a full trial.
You began connecting people in politics who would normally never be allowed to work together.
The fixer kept providing new information and leverage to keep you doing what he wanted. Each new request from the fixer made it harder for you to remember your original principles.
After 6 years in the Senate, you had gained important leadership positions and real influence.
You received invitations to every major event and felt almost untouchable in Washington circles.
Late at night alone, you sometimes remembered the idealistic young man you used to be.
You helped push through deals and regulations that you knew deep down were not right.
On surface, you had become successful, but inside something important was slowly dying.
One day, the president himself asked you to become his vice president, which was a huge honor. You accepted the offer and celebrated what felt like the biggest achievement of your career.
Before you could even enjoy the moment, the fixer called to congratulate you on your success. Hello?
He said that now with this new power, you could finally do some real important work together. You now worked in an office with marble floors and paintings of dead leaders looking down at you.
Secret Service agents now stood outside your door, protecting you wherever you went.
You kept telling yourself you were still one of the good guys, playing a very long game.
You believed that once you reached the presidency, you could finally cut all ties with the fixer, and all this was running in your head.
Late at night, when you could not sleep, the guilt would creep in and keep you awake and becomes restless in bed.
You promised yourself that once you became president, you would return to your original roots with full-scale determination and no looking back.
Life as vice president brought you enormous power and attention and constant public appearances with motorcade cars driving past cheering crowds with flags waving.
The fixer continued to demand more access and favors now that you held even higher office. And fixer hands over new files. You continued helping with requests while telling yourself it would all end when you reached the top.
Despite all the success and power, you felt increasingly isolated from the person you once were, and now you're lonely.
You had come so far and sacrificed so much that turning back now seemed almost impossible, and really impossible indeed.
2 years into your time as vice president, a new threat appeared on the horizon as you review documents with investigation clues.
The fixer showed up suddenly one day and walking past Secret Service with confidence saying there was an urgent problem that needed handling.
There's an urgent problem that needs handling. What is it?
He showed you a photo of a smart young journalist who was investigating your entire past, and you had a really concerned expression.
She was getting dangerously close to uncovering the fixer and the scandals and everything else that they had going on for all this long. You asked the fixer what he suggested they should do about this growing investigation because now things are getting really out of hand for sure. I suggest we contain it quietly.
The fixer said he could discredit her and ruin her reputation so nobody would believe her work and everything that she does will not be fruitful.
This felt completely different from before, as it meant destroying an innocent person's life and career, but had nothing to do about it anyway.
You had come so far and were so close to the presidency of your dreams, and that you felt trapped with no good choices, have nothing else to do now.
After a long, painful moment of silence, you finally gave the fixer the green light to proceed to finish the job and retain your good reputation. The fixer said it would be handled cleanly and left you sitting there with heavy regret.
3 days later, false stories emerged accusing the journalist of serious ethical violations.
You watched her reputation get completely destroyed by manufactured lies and felt both relief and deep sickness.
2 months later, your presidential campaign officially launched with massive energy and huge crowds. The rallies were enormous, with thousands of people chanting your name, showing support. You shook hands and smiled for cameras while delivering campaign speeches. Your campaign gained momentum as you won primary after primary across the country. You successfully secured the presidential nomination and felt victory was finally within reach.
But at night, you kept seeing the young journalist's face and the lies that destroyed her career.
The guilt you allowed to happen to that innocent reporter never fully went.
3 months before election, everything seemed to be going exactly according to plan.
Then the journalist suddenly resurfaced with evidence she had quietly gathered.
She published everything about the fixer fake photos and buried investigations and dirty deals. Political opponents immediately called for full investigations into your entire career.
Many of your longtime allies went completely silent and refused to defend you publicly.
Your poll numbers collapsed dramatically and you fell behind by 15 points in just 2 weeks.
It was clear to everyone, including you, that the campaign was effectively over and you would lose.
Fixer called one final time, offering one last drastic solution to turn everything around. What is it?
For the first time in 15 years, you stopped and really thought about crossing that final line.
You told the fixer you were done and refused to go any further no matter what happened next. You can't be serious! We had a deal! I don't care. It's over. You'll regret this!
You lost the election badly on election night, but felt a strange sense of relief for the first time.
If you enjoyed this one, you're going to love what's coming up next. I've picked out this specific video just for you. Click right here to keep the momentum going. See you over there!